understand nuance. I understand disagreement. I understand that reasonable people can disagree on foreign policy, borders, budgets, beliefs, and who they love or live with. But facts are not feelings, and reality is not a debate club. Some things are simply true. You can replay the video 100 times, 1,000 times. Anyone with a functioning brain can see it. A woman was executed in broad daylight in an American city by an armed agent of the United States government, acting under the banner of immigration enforcement. Not tragically killed, not fatally involved, executed. And somehow, the outrage is not the killing. The outrage is that American citizens were recording, doing what citizens are allowed to do, following government agents, documenting power. Because cameras ruin lies. Because video embarrasses false testimony. Because accountability makes authoritarians look stupid, and they hate looking stupid. This wasn't about threat, it wasn't about safety, and it wasn't about the law. This was about ego. He didn't like being challenged. He didn't like being spoken to like that by queer folk. Didn't like that her wife carried more courage, more composure, more actual service than he ever would. She reminded him what service looks like. She reminded him who he wasn't. And when she told him, mockingly, casually, to go get lunch, big boy, he snapped. Not accidentally, not instinctively, intentionally. Because this is a known tactic. Border Patrol agents have been documented since at least the report in 2014, stepping deliberately in front of slow-moving vehicles. Create the moment, flame the fear, pull the trigger. He knew exactly what he was doing. That's why he filmed it. That's why his camera was trained on her face. That's why we haven't seen that footage. Anyone arguing that this was justified is not just wrong. You are a traitor to truth, to reality, to the basic concept of evidence. This is how propaganda works. Repeat the lie, no matter how outrageous, until the lie feels safer than the truth. They blur the obvious until brutality becomes bureaucratic. And this was not an isolated incident. Keith Porter Jr., California. Mary Mar Martinez, Chicago. This is a pattern. Deliberate, documented, denied. So let's talk definitions. Domestic terrorism is defined as violent criminal acts committed within the United States, motivated by political, racial, religious, or social ideology to intimidate civilians or influence government conduct through force, violence, illegality, ideology, intimidation. Now tell me, what is more anti-government than hollowing out federal institutions, purging hundreds of thousands of civil servants? Is that a nod to Curtis Yarvin and his rage? Retire all government employees, attacking the judiciary, assaulting the free press, and attempting to overturn democracy itself. What is more anti-government than that? What is more terroristic than masked, anonymous, armed agents breaking car windows, dragging people into unmarked vehicles, disappearing them, or executing them in the street? The Republican Party can scream domestic terrorists at Democrats all day long. It will never stick. You might convince people to hate the left. You might convince them that liberals are the enemies. You might convince them that America is under siege by pronouns and trans athletes and whatever fever dream is trending this week. You will never convince sane people that this is normal. Most of it isn't even legal. None of it is American. Coming for women too. They're coming for the vote, coming for the right to work, to move, to exist without permission. This goes far beyond Roe. When a lawless, masked, militarized force is terrorizing civilians on purpose, and the official DHS account is posting the footage to rile up the racists, we can see exactly who the domestic terrorists are. Same side as January 6th, same recruits, same contempt for democracy is who he surrounds himself with to protect him from people who read, from people who recognize history, from people who can see the pattern repeating. And make no mistake, this is about power, about handing the country to billionaires, to surveillance capital, to Peter Thiel's wet dream of total monitoring. They tested the technology in Gaza. They're building the infrastructure here. So ask yourself, not if, but how long until we hear the drones overhead? Because history doesn't whisper before it breaks. It repeats louder, faster, and with uniforms. Thanks, guys, for watching my videos.